Hi, I'm Khalifa and I'm a solutions architect, and I do these videos because I find them fun and interesting to share some of the knowledge, and just basically when I'm trying new stuff, it's just kind of fun to do a video on it. So the other day I was doing a video on AWS S3 Object Lambda and showing how it works, and I was following one of the tutorials that AWS had released online. I did a Twitch stream on it. You can follow the link in the description to check that out. But I kind of wanted to reshoot it because the audio quality wasn't the great, so I I kind of tweaked my setup a little bit to make sure that the audio came through clear, and also the video should be clear as well. I need to put a higher bitrate when I'm doing Twitch streaming, so I'm just kind of reshooting this, and also Now that video, when I was going through the tutorial, I had a lot of pitfalls and bumps, and along the way, there were some things I didn't do right. It was one or two things that I didn't do right. But then I also found some issues with the tutorial that were kind of out of date. This time I'm going to go through those a little bit faster, and I'm going to go through the same issues that I had, but I'm going to point them out as I go, as we run into them, and fix them later on. So it still probably won't take just 20 minutes to do this tutorial, but you will get through it in less than an hour, a significant, probably half the time. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll read the overview of the tutorial. The link is also in the description if you want to follow along. So let's go ahead and get started. Using Amazon S3 Object Lambda to dynamically watermark images as they are retrieved. So AWS S3 Object Lambdas is something that we can use. You can add your own code to S3 get, head, and list requests to modify data as it is returned to an application. You can use custom code to modify the data returned by S3 get requests to convert data formats, for example, XML to JSON, dynamically resize images, etc. You can also use S3 Object Lambda to modify the output of S3 list requests to create a custom view of objects in a bucket, and S3 head requests to modify object metadata like object name and size. The purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to get started with Amazon S3 Object Lambda. Many organizations store images in S3 that are accessed by different applications, each with unique data format requirements. In certain cases, images may need to be modified to include a watermark depending on the user accessing the images. For example, a paying subscriber can view images without watermarks, while a non-paying subscriber, paying user, receives a watermarked image. So think of something buying like images off of Etsy or any of those image sites there. That's kind of what this is useful for. It's kind of a useful case for something like that. In this tutorial, we use S3 Object Lambda to add a watermark to an image as it is retrieved from S3. I'm going to stop there. We're just going to go ahead and jump into it. We're going to go quickly over what you can accomplish. So this will get you familiar with using Amazon S3 buckets, creating an S3 access point, creating Lambda functions and modifying images, creating an object Lambda access point, and in addition, we'll probably play around with some Python because, like I said, there were some pitfalls that I ran into, probably because the tutorial hasn't been updated since February 2023. There were some things that happened, and there's also a step in there which we'll get to in a second, which we won't even go through because it would take too long to complete. So let me go ahead and jump into the tutorial, and let's go ahead and get started with doing this. Prerequisite, you will need an AWS account to actually do this in. As you saw above in the tutorial, this should cost you less than $1. So if you want to follow along, it is pretty easy to do. If you don't know how to set up an AWS account, there's tutorials. We won't go into how to do that in this tutorial, but there are plenty of guides online to how to set up an AWS account. As a prerequisite, you'll need an AWS account to perform these actions in, or you can just follow along with the video and gain some knowledge. But it's always better to do the practice live yourself, so I do encourage you to go ahead, click on this tutorial, and go through this process yourself, even if you just watch the video to go through it the first time. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, basic, standard stuff for working with Amazon. All right. First things first, sign into our AWS account. So we'll go ahead, sign into our account. My son, he likes to make sure he drops a comment in when he's when I'm doing a video. I don't know if you heard it or not. All right, there we go. So we're logged into our account. First step says select buckets from the Amazon S3 menu in the left navigation pane. Nope, create a bucket. Select buckets from the left. First, we need to go to the S3 bucket service. That's what we'll do first. Then we'll select buckets, and then we'll create a. Looks like we need to create a bucket, enter a descriptive globally unique name because all S3 buckets are based on a URL, so you need a globally unique name that will be unique to you across the internet. Select AWS region. We're going to use US East 1, North Virginia in this tutorial, but you can use whatever you like, whatever's closest to you, or you can just follow along and use the same region we use in this tutorial. It's not going to hurt. So we're going to go to S3. Go to S3. We'll go to S3 here, services, because you'll need to use this more. Middle mouse button, I'll open up a new tab. And we're going to go ahead and create a bucket. We'll call it S3 Object Lambda 2. Now, if everybody named their bucket like this would not work. You would see that you could not use this name because somebody else used it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my name on the end, which will make mine unique. You can use whatever random code you want. But my name is unique enough that I'm pretty sure nobody has this bucket name. I'm in the Northeast Virginia region. We're going to leave all the defaults like the tutorial said. You can leave the remaining options with the default selections. Navigate to the bottom of the page and choose Create Bucket. So let's go ahead and do that. Boom. We're not even going to look at those settings because we don't want to modify them. So now we got our bucket here. All right, so the next step is to upload an object to the bucket. From the list of available buckets, select the bucket name of the bucket you just created. Next, make sure the object tab is selected. Then from within the object selection section, choose the upload button. So we would go to the bucket. I already clicked on the bucket and we can just hit upload, but I'm going to show you a slightly different way. I'm going to open up an image on my, I'm going to find an image on my computer. I don't want you to see all the files that I have, so I'm just doing this off screen. I'm just going to grab an image here. So grab an image, any one of these will do. And I'm just going to upload it here. Drop it in, and then I'm going to hit upload. And now we can see that that file is listed in the uploads. We can close out of that. You want to close out of that, and we can see the name of the object, the type, the data was uploaded, and all that good stuff. All right, great. So we've created our bucket and we've uploaded an object to our bucket. So we've done this. You can grab this image here, or you can find something on the internet, or you can just use something on the computer like I did. And once we've done that, so we kind of skipped all past this, but we've uploaded our object to the bucket and now we have it in the bucket. And the next step we're going to do, step 3, is to create an S3 access point. Navigate to the console and select access points. So go to S3, navigate. We're already in the S3 service dashboard. We don't want buckets, we want access point. I'm going to middle mouse click this again so I can get a new tab. So I want to keep this button, this here, just in case I need it later on. And now we're going to go ahead and create an access point, but let's read the rest of the instructions before we do that, so we kind of know what we're getting into. Navigate to S3 console and select the access point menu option in the left navigation pane. Then choose the Create Access Point button. In the Properties section, enter a desired access point name and choose the bucket that you entered in step 1 by selecting Browse S3 button. Next, set the network origin as Internet. Okay, so we got our steps. The main steps are here, and after we do that, we keep all of the defaults as is, navigate to the bottom of the page and choose Create Access Point. So again, we're just going to get into creating an access point, call it S3 Object Lambda AP for access point. I'm just kind of giving these a similar name so that I can remember how to delete this stuff later on. Since this is a tutorial, I don't want to keep these resources lying around when I'm done. I want to get rid of them after I make sure that I complete the tutorial, I understand what's going on. And whatnot. Okay, bucket name, browse for the bucket. It's this bucket here, S3 Object Lambda 2 Khalifa. Choose that bucket. We want to select network origin as internet, and then we're going to leave everything else as is, and then create our bucket. And with that, we're done with that part. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead further down to the next step, and we can say the we can see the 3.4 step 3.4 was access point will now appear in the list, and we can definitely see that the access point is now there in the list. It's one of one. It's the only access point I have. I don't know if you have other ones. Remember, when you're doing stuff like this, it's best to do this in an account where you do development testing, not your production account or in your root account and anything like that. And you want to use a user that has enough power, like an administrator user, but not your root user in your root account. Just a bit of caution there. All right, so the next step. Next, create a Lambda function that will be invoked when S3 GET requests are made through an S3 Object Lambda access point. So our GET requests are going to be made through our S3 Object Lambda access point, and from there it'll it'll trigger a GET request to our S3 bucket, and then from there it will actually process what's returned before it gets to us, and that's how the image watermark will get onto the image. We will use the Amazon Cloud Shell for this part. You can use your own computer or Cloud Shell 9, but I'm going to recommend you use the Cloud Shell. It's going to have everything we need installed. We're going to need to actually install some additional stuff too, but this Cloud Shell, I like to use Cloud Shell because it's usually got everything we need when we need to do quick stuff like tutorials or something like this. And it'll keep us from getting into trouble with having to try and set all this other stuff up. So go ahead and start a Cloud Shell terminal, Cloud Shell icon on the right. If on the top right menu of the AWS, that would be here. I'm actually not going to use this. If you use the Cloud Shell here, it will create a split pane. I don't want that exactly. So what we're going to do is go into the service and search for Cloud Shell. And we're going to middle mouse click that to open up in a new tab. I want to keep my other stuff just in case I need to copy and paste something from those other windows. And there we go. It looks like I already have some sessions started. It looks like we already have Python 3.9.16. The next steps are after we open up our Cloud Shell 4.2, prepare the Cloud Shell to deploy the Lambda function. So the first thing we need to do is run the following code in the Cloud Shell to prepare the environment and deploy the Lambda layer with the pillow module. Copy and paste the following code into Cloud Shell to install the required. Now the first time I did this tutorial, this is where I got a little bit stuck and I thought everything had run. I had copied this entire thing and I had pasted it in, and that did not exactly happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it step by step. We're going to copy this first line. Basically every command after a comment. So these are comments with the hash marks at the beginning in gray. We're going to just grab these commands and run them one by one. So we're going to install all our software. Make sure that completes successfully. So I can see it's installing GCC, OpenSSL, some other things, bzip development, OpenSSL development libraries. So yeah, this seems like it's gonna build something. I'm not sure if we already have Python installed. And what I think what's happening here is that it's trying to set up a Python environment for us, which is fine. We can run this part here. Go ahead, paste, and source that. All right, cool. So now we have our Python environment set up a little bit. But then this part here, it's trying to have us install an older version of Python. We have 3.9.1.16. That's gonna have to be good enough. I'm not exactly sure how this will run, but I'm pretty sure that's probably gonna take more than 5 minutes. And we just don't have that kind of time. And the version that we have on there is close enough to this that we should be fine. And the next step, we're going to build a pillow layer. This part we can't skip. So we need to perform a make directory, a Python directory, cd into the Python directory, pip install pillow, and then cd outside the directory. And then we're going to zip that directory up into pillow up into a zip file. And then after that, we're going to actually push this up as a layer to Lambda. Okay, so that sounds good. So let's copy all this, paste that in the shell. All right, and install pillow. Made the Python directory, moved into the Python directory, installed pillow. Now it's adding those. And then the last part, we have to hit enter again to go ahead and push that Lambda layer. Okay, great. So now we've pushed up a Lambda layer that is called pillow. You can actually go to the console and go to Lambda and look at the Lambda layers and see that. And you can see that the pillow layer is there. So let's go back here again. Note when copying and pasting code, Cloud Shell will open a warning. Yeah, we already know about that. Build the Lambda function. Download the TrueType font that will be used by the Lambda function to add a watermark to an image. Okay, so this is important. So we're going to download a TrueType font. Let's go ahead and copy that. Paste that into the shell and hit enter. Then we do an ls. So now we see our pillow zip that we created earlier, but we also see our font we just downloaded. Now we're going to unzip that font right here. Copy that. Boom. So now that font is unzipped, so we have that. So now that we have the pillow layer, and well, the pillow layer is done, we've uploaded that. Now we've downloaded a font. Now the next step is to create the Lambda function code that will be used to process the S3 Object Lambda request. All right, great. So this code here, we're not gonna dig into the meat of it just yet. We're gonna have to dig into it a little bit. But basically, this is the code that's going to actually embed a watermark on that image that we uploaded to our S3 bucket here. All right, so go ahead and copy this. We'll scroll down to the bottom. There's a copy button down here. We want to make sure that we copy all of this, so I'm not going to take any chances by highlighting it. I'm just going to hit that copy button and get that kind of a confirmation that I've copied that. And then we're going to paste that into the window. Don't be afraid now. It's a little bit scary, but don't worry about it if you're not used to the shell. Boom. All right, paste. Ask before pasting multiple lines of code. You're sure that's fine. Paste that, and boom. So now we should do an ls, and we can see the lambda.py. If we do a nano lambda.py, we can actually see, okay, yeah. Yep, it looks like it got all of that code. If we could take a quick comparison at the top. We have the AWS library called Bodo, JSON OS, all that stuff. And then down here we have some JPEG. Does that look like that's the right thing? Yep, it sure does. We got a Bodo, JSON OS, whatever. Okay, great. Control X. Let's get out of that. Again, we have those files now. So now we have our font and our lambda.py. We've already uploaded our lambda. We could probably get rid of these two things because we're done with them now. And we've extracted the font. We could probably get rid of that as well, but we'll worry about cleaning all this up later. And so now that we've done this part, we've got the code on the Cloud Shell. The next step is to create the Lambda zip file that contains the Python code and the TrueType font. So basically we're creating another zip file and adding those two files to it. So let's copy that, go ahead and paste it, create that zip. And now we have that lambda.zip. All right, great. The next thing we do And this zip will serve as the source code for our Lambda function. We're going to, before we do that, we're going to create an IAM role that attaches to the Lambda function. And this role is going to be called OL Lambda Images. It's going to assume a role policy document. The document specifically says effect allow the principal service Lambda. So allow Lambda service to assume the action role, STS assume role. So, all right, so allows the Lambda service to assume a role. All right, so let's go ahead, copy that, and paste that. This will be in IAM. So let me open up IAM. The thing we're looking for was the name OL Lambda Images. So if we go to IAM and go to roles, search for that. There's no role there yet. That's because we haven't actually done it yet. So let's go ahead and enter. And all right, cool. So now it shows that OL, our role name is OL Images. And we can refresh that, and there it is now. And now we can see that this role has no permissions, but it does have a trust policy that we specify in the command line. So go ahead, go back. Next thing, attach a predefined IAM policy to the IAM role created previously. This policy contains the minimum permissions required to run the Lambda function. Okay, cool. So now we've got a couple of lines here. We are attaching a policy to the role OL Lambda Images that we just created. The policy is, it looks like a Amazon managed policy for Amazon S3 Object Lambda execute role policy. All right, cool. So what's going to happen is that we're going to add some permissions to this policy, and they should show up here after we do that. But there also appears to be some other environment variables that we're creating. We're creating an OL Lambda role environment variable, and it's going to use a AWS command to get the role OL Lambda Images role and get the ARN of the role. And the next step is the Lambda layer. So I guess we're putting the Lambda layer ARN in here. The Lambda list layers, query layers, blah blah blah. All right. I'm gonna run the command like this before. We'll take a look at it and we'll see what it dumps into this environment variable. So let's copy that, and then we're gonna run these three things. Paste. Boom, boom. So now I want to do an echo because I wasn't sure. This I'm pretty sure it's just the ARN of the role that we created. And this one, I'm not exactly sure what to see there. I don't normally do Lambda layers by command line, paste. So what would it put in there? The ARN of the pillow role. And that means using version 3. All right, cool. So we should be good there. Yours may have a different version number on it. Don't worry about it. Just as long as the layer is there after you run that command, run the command that we ran before in step 4.2, this command here. As long as you've run that, you should have your pillow layer. Well, actually, as long as you've run all of this. If you didn't run all of this, it might not have created it like you wanted it to. But that's just make sure you can go to Lambda and just verify, go to layers and verify that the layer is there. As long as your layer is there, you should be good. And especially if there's an environment variable that shows you your layer is there or has a value in it. If it's empty, then there's a problem and you need to go back and fix it. Okay, so now that we've done all that, we can go ahead and create and upload the Lambda function. Create the Lambda function and then upload the source code to it. So what we're doing here in this command is that we're going to create a function. The function name is going to be OL_image_processing. The zip file that we're using is a local zip file, that lambda.zip that we created with the font and the Python code inside of it. The handler in the Python code is called lambda.handler. And then we have a runtime of Python 3.9. And then we're using the role ARN that we specified in that environment variable. And we want to add that layer to this function. So we want that function to use that layer, those reusable layers. You can upload layers and reuse them across multiple functions. So it's really good stuff to. And then the memory size is 1024. Okay, cool. copy that. Let's go ahead and paste that and create that Lambda function. Paste. We can go ahead and quit out of that, and then we can go to Lambda Functions and verify that our OL_image processing function is there. I'm not seeing it right now, so let me go ahead and refresh that. Ah, and there it goes. All right, great. Your code has been updated while you were making changes. Your collaborator has changed the project outside of the editor. Yep, we just uploaded it. That was us. And you can see all the code that was supposed to be pasted in here. Instead of pasting it directly, we can also see that our font file is there. So we're pretty good so far. All right, making good time. Step 5, create an S3 Object Lambda access point. Create an S3 Object Lambda access point that will be used to access the images stored in your S3 bucket. All right. Navigate to the S3 console and choose Object Lambda Access Points. In the left navigation pane, choose the Create Object Lambda Access Points button. In the General section for the Object Lambda Access Point, enter OL Amazon S3 Images Guide. Leave off the period there. Ensure that the AWS region for your S3 Object Lambda access point matches the AWS region you specified when creating the S3 bucket. So again, I'm using US East 1. If you aren't using US East 1, make sure you use the same region that you use for the bucket. For the supporting access point, specify the Amazon resource name ARN of the S3 access point that you created in step 3.2 using the browse button. So for this Lambda access point, we have to specify the S3 access point. Navigate down to the transformation configuration and S3 APIs list and select the Get object. Under Lambda function, specify OL processing. Not at this time, son. All right, kids coming in asking for candy. Next, navigate to the bottom of the page and choose Create Object Lambda Access Point. All right, so let's go ahead and get this done. My kids are getting restless. All right, so let's see. I forgot where I was at. I got distracted with my kid. Object Lambda Access Points. Let's open up another window for that. We're going to create one. We're going to call it OL Amazon S3 Images Guide. Let me double check and make sure that that was the name for that. For the enter OL Amazon S3 Images Guide. And we next need to select the access point. Wait, what? What just happened? I didn't want to do that. Let's close that. Browse. We want to browse. We want to select this one. Great. Transformation, get object. If I'm not mistaken, that's it. Under Lambda function, specify the OL. Almost forgot the most important part. We gotta specify the Lambda function. Choose from functions in your account. That is correct. We're gonna open that up and we want to choose OL image processing. We don't want to specify a Lambda version. We already have one, so just use the latest, and we'll see that works out for us in a second, because the code that we put in there is actually has a bug in it because there's some deprecated code in there, and we have to fix that. We'll do that in a second. Navigate to the transformation configuration S3 endless. Yep, we did that already. We specified the Lambda function. Next, navigate to the bottom of the page and create the object Lambda. So let's go ahead and create that before we go any further. Create the object, and now we have our Lambda access point, our S3 Object Lambda access point. The whole point of this tutorial is to get this here. All right, now that we have that, download images from the S3 Object Lambda access point. After creating the S3 Object Lambda access point, we will open the image to verify that a watermark is properly added during the request. Word of warning, it shouldn't work at this point. If it does work for you at this point, that's great. I'm not sure what I did wrong. Probably because I skipped when this part said 3.9. That's probably what happened, because I have a newer version of Pillow is what I'm assuming that what happens, but I'm assuming even if you do the Python 3.9, you will still have a newer version of Pillow because it didn't specify which version of Pillow to download. It's probably going to download the latest. So I'm thinking you'll have the same issue that I have. Return to the list. If not, leave a comment below and I'll acknowledge it. Return to the list of S3 Lambda access points by choosing, okay, and stuff I wanted. In this example, we choose the S3 Object Lambda point that we just created. Select the image that you uploaded to, and then choose Open button. So we want to go to the S3 Object Lambda access point. That's a mouthful. And we want to select this image. It's the only image that we have here. And we want to click Open. And Lambda function failed during execution. Okay. I was expecting this. But if you got an image here, you're good to go down to step 6.2, 6.3, and so on. But we're going to have to stop here until we get past this. This is where we got to stop, fix the problem, and before we proceed. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Lambda function. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to monitoring, not configuration, monitoring, and view the CloudWatch logs. I want to take a look at these CloudWatch logs and see if I can see what's going on so I can debug the issue. So using the latest CloudWatch log, we're going to take a look. Object retrieve, is that the name of the object? 28 C4D CloudWatch 28 C4D. So that's the object. It retrieved the object. Compatible image found. All right, so it is a compatible image. You can see that here. Compatible image found. Processing image JPEG. Lambda unhandled warning. The most likely cause is issue in the function code. Okay. Image draw object no attribute text size. All right, so this is one of the issues that I first found when I did this tutorial the first time. And we'll go to the Stack Overflow answer, and the text size was deprecated was the answer that I got. Turns out that was the case. And what I had to do to fix this was figure out how to rewrite the code on the from the error lines to figure out how to make this work. If we take a look at the errors again, it'll have a stack trace in it, which is perfect. It'll help us figure out what line, starting on line 87 in the handler. And then we go back further down where we call add watermark. And then inside that function add watermark line 43 and add watermark. There was an issue with this line here. Width, height, text width, and text height, text size. And it's complaining about text size. So this is likely the cause and the culprit. And we need to figure it out. And that is exactly what happened. In order to fix that, we got to find out where to fix that in the code. So if we go back to the Lambda and we go to the code and we go to line 43, I believe. And we see this line here. We need to fix this. This no longer exists and it won't work. What it does, it returns the text width and the text height. But in order to fix this, we need to find out what it changed to. Now in the Stack Overflow, they say it changed to text length. We can put text length, but I know for a fact that that isn't good enough because text length doesn't return the width and the height anymore. It returns something else. So what I did was I found another solution just by searching online to fix the problem. I'll post this in the link too, so you can see it as well. But we can go here and you can copy this entire function. We're going to just create a new function called get text dimensions. Copy that. And we're going to paste that in our code. Python Lambda code. We're going to create a new function from that right above add watermark. Okay, and then we're going to call this with the same values. It's pretty much taking the same values. Taking the text string. Where is it? Where's text string set? Text string is actually passed in, and then it's taking the font, which we pull from here. And so we're just gonna. What we want is we'll get the text width and height equal to this. Now I want to make sure that the function is returning that, so we'll comment that out. We actually don't even need de-draw anymore, so we don't need to draw and get it. We're going to get the dimensions this way. Alright, cool. And that should work. And then we return the text width and the text height. Make sure those variables match up, text width and text height. Yeah, great. Alright, so let's deploy that this time, and hopefully that will be right. There's no more issues with that. So let's go back. I'm going to go here to go to CloudWatch, processing. I'm just going to delete all these other streams just to clear it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to the OL. I'm going to refresh that. I'm going to just click that and have it open again. Let's see what happens now. Alright, cool. This is probably a bad image to use, but you can see that the watermark is there. You can at least see the K. If we wanted to put a watermark on this, we would probably use a different color or something like that. I won't worry about that. We're already pretty long into the tutorial, but now we got our image and we can actually move through the rest of the tutorial. If you want to make it prettier or do some other cool stuff, I encourage you to. It's always fun to play with this stuff. That way you get more experience and you improve your skills. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and finish off this tutorial. A new browser tab will open with your image watermark. Yes, it sure did. It did. Downloading the transform image from the AWS CLI. So what we're going to do is you can also download the image using the AWS CLI. To do this, you need to the Amazon ARN of the S3 Object Lambda access point in the S3 console. Navigate to, so we know how we got to grab that Lambda ARN, and then we're going to need to put it in to this command here. So we're going to copy that command, and then we're going to open up a text editor. So we're going to open up Notepad, new window, paste it in there, and S3 object get, paste the name of our ARN object Lambda. We're going to need the name of the key and the file to write. We're just going to call it wmfile.jpg. That's what we'll call it, watermark file. All right, and then we need the file name and from the bucket, so we know which point we're accessing. I'm opening up the wrong thing. And let's go to, there's the name of the file. We'll copy that first. Go back to our code, the key from the S3 bucket, and then we need the ARN of the object S3 object Lambda access point. Is it here on this page? On the access points. Copy the ARN right there. There's a button for it. That saves us a second. And let's go ahead and go back to the VS Code and paste that in here. Boom. So now when we run this on the command line in this Cloud Shell, we should be able to pull down the image that way as well. And I'm opening up the wrong browser tabs. Cloud Shell. ls, see what files are there. Boom, we should have a WM file now. And what we can do is we can work in directory, download that file, download the image to your local computer from Cloud Shell, choose actions, in the top right and select download file, enter the file name that you defined in step 6.3. Now open the image in your local computer. All right, so let's go to Cloud Shell. This will be interesting. We can hit download. Before we do that, we're going to hit print working directory, copy that, and then we can hit, actually, let's go to the terminal. I'm going to put it on this line, slash and the name of the file is WM file. I could have copied that from the text file itself, because that's also down there. So we just want to download this file from the Cloud Shell. You have to write out the path to tell Cloud Shell where to download the files. It doesn't give you like a GUI to download things. So you're stuck using part GUI, part command line. So download file, and then he'll give you a path to what file to download. Download that. Preparing your download. I'll pull it up for a second. Go to downloads. And copy that. We'll paste that there. So if you see here, you got my WM file, and I'll open it up, and yep, there's my watermark file. You can't really see it because it's on white. It's transparent white on white, which doesn't work out very well, but it's there. So that is done. What else does the tutorial want us to do? Image viewers can differ by computer and operating system, or whatever. All right, so now it's time to clean up this mess. So let's go ahead and clean up. Delete the S3 Object Lambda access point. Okay. That also wants us to delete the S3 access point, and then delete the object out of the bucket, and then delete the bucket. We also created a policy and a role on an IAM role. When you create the Lambda function, it also creates some other pieces as well. We want to clean all of that stuff up. So let's go through this one piece at a time. Starting with the Lambda access point, let's go ahead and delete that. All right, so access point is here. Lambda access points, great. Let's go ahead and delete this. Copy that, paste that in there. So now our access point is gone. Go to S3, go to access points. Now our S3 access point is gone. Delete. Delete, delete, delete. And then go to the buckets. We can delete this bucket. We're going to empty it out first. You have to empty the bucket before you can delete it. If there's anything in your bucket, it refuses to delete for good reason. You don't want to accidentally delete an entire bucket in production because you just were so quick to just delete stuff or didn't pay attention to what account you were in. That'll be a nice talk with your team lead, right? Oh wait, cancel, wrong bucket. I almost did that. Go back. Select the bucket that you want and hit delete. So boom, delete that. Now let's go ahead and clean up that IAM role as well. There's CloudWatch log group as well. I'll also delete the function. So now we get to the S3 console and choose the Lambda access point in the left navigation pane. Object access point, choose the radio button next to the left. Click delete, confirm delete. Delete the access point. Confirm delete. Delete the test object, which you already did. Select checkbox. Delete objects, permanent delete. Then choose delete objects button, continue. Next, you'll be presented with a banner, blah, blah, blah. Delete the S3 object bucket. Review the warning message and delete. Delete the Lambda function. Okay, let's go ahead and delete that Lambda function. Functions. Doesn't hurt to filter, you won't make a mistake. Okay, so now that's gone, but as I said before, I wish I had paid attention to what log group. All right, so we go to IAM roles. We can delete the role as well. Role dash, delete that role. We no longer need that. Boom, done with that. And anything else that I need to clean up? I think there's like one more thing. The CloudWatch logs. Image processing. And we'll delete this group as well. Okay, with that, this tutorial is now complete. We had a pretty good time taking care of that. This is a lot quicker than I did it the first time. Of course, I ran into some pitfalls and I had to debug it live on Twitch. So again, if you want to take a look at the Twitch stream, it's kind of fun to see me debug it live. But this is straightforward, straight to the point. You don't have to waste any time. You can get through this tutorial and then you can actually try it out yourself. I hope you had fun doing that. Again, thank you for joining me. My name is Khalifa. I'm a solutions architect. And have a good day.